we've essentially selected in Bangladesh a study of the delta front because deltas are highly representative of a very vulnerable yet highly productive region, particularly in terms of climate change. Deltas are low-lying and there are a lot of climate change impacts. They tend to sit at the end of large biophysical systems, river systems, and in this case the Himalayas, the Ganges, and the Brahmaputra. But they also, in this case, are home to substantial production, substantial agricultural production, but a great deal of poverty, a large area. So it's a kind of crossover region. It's a hotspot, if you like, of social, environmental issues. What we have aimed to do is to model this. And the way I often put this is, if you imagine the simulation game, SimCity or something, to help decision makers, we need to produce a simulation of that delta socially, biophysically, so it's in its physical sense, the river, the water, the agriculture, but also the people. And the interesting part of the project is we're going to try to model the relationships between them. And that's a system. So when you adjust one, you affect many other components of the system. And in the past, it was very much you modeled on one approach. You were a hydrologist, or you were a social, in some way you modeled the social context. And we used to call it integration of the brain. So what you would do is look at all these models and try to put them together. I think the technology and the expertise and our ability to engage with people locally and experts means that we're now in a position to really begin to explore how these things interact in a complex way that might be of use to decision makers. I think some of the things that are emerging that are interesting is the interplay between climate change, changes in the monsoon, changes in storminess, increase in storminess, and the fact that the monsoon, a lack of predictability. So that's causing a stress. That's causing a stress on the environment already, and I think people are very aware that climate change is having an impact, or these environmental changes are having an impact. But what is also interesting is that is heavily compounded by anthropogenic, man-made issues. In Bangladesh and India, you have this huge mangrove, the largest mangrove forest in the world, the Sundarban, where the famous tigers live. And in fact, often that mangrove is a natural barrier. And this, one of the interesting things that's happened on the Delta is that by modifying it, by agriculture, and by removing certain areas, removing this natural barrier, we are exposing ourselves to climate. Again, there's a kind of trade-off. You want the land for agriculture, but you're cutting down the protection of your land. I think the significance of that research is that policymakers need to be looking at the long-term strategy on the Delta